Hello friends, in the last lecture, we saw how active news reading can help us in preempting questions pertaining to current affairs. Today, we will be applying the same magic to the static portion by using a document provided to us by none other than UPSC, and that document is nothing else than past year UPSC questions. I'll be presenting before you few past year questions and showing that how these questions can act as guiding light and help us in reducing our study time and increasing the range of our marks and ultimately help us in preempting questions from the static portion. Let us begin. The first thing we'll be talking about is preempting traps. Let's look at this UPSC question. With reference to the cultural history of India, the term Panchayatan refers to. The term Panchayatan is very misleading in its own sense because the first sense that we get in our mind after reading or hearing this term is that it is some sort of a panchayat or a grouping of people or grouping of elders. And interestingly, the option A that UPSC had given was an assembly of village elders. Now, many people marked option A as the correct answer, but they got it wrong. So, what is the takeaway that we are getting from this particular UPSC question? The takeaway is that UPSC has the knack to play with misleading names, jargons, phrases. So, what can be a possible similar question that can be asked in future? Let's take this example of Ashtachap. Now, Ashtachap is a group of poets. Now, if you haven't heard about this or if you haven't read about this, you might very well get confused by traps set up by UPSC. So, by preempting traps, what we are doing when we are reading such terms like Ashtachap or Ashtadhyay or Ashtapradhan, just for example, or any other term for that matter, then we must have this thing in our mind that UPSC can set a trap question by using this particular term and try to fool the aspirants in the examination hall. So this is how we preempt traps. If a question can be asked on Panchayatan, then a similar question can be asked on Ashtachap based on this golden rule. Next, UPSC question. We are understanding what is on UPSC's mind. This is something very interesting that we are doing. We are digging deep into the mind of the paper setter himself. Let's see how. Let's see this UPSC question. Which one of the following national park lies completely in the temperate alpine zone? And the answer to this question was Valley of Flowers National Park. Now, what is the takeaway we are getting? The takeaway is that national parks with unique characteristics are more likely to be asked. Similarly, there were questions on Namdapha National Park, on Kabul Lamjau National Park, and so on. So, what is the connecting thread between all these national parks? The connecting thread is that they have something or the other that is quite unique only to those national parks. So, what possible or similar question can be asked in future? Then there can be a possible similar question on One Vihar National Park. What's unique about this national park? That although it has been declared as a national park, but it is a sort of an upgraded zoological park of sorts. So there lies its uniqueness. So a question can be asked on One Vihar National Park or some other national park, but for convenience, I have taken example of One Vihar National Park. So if a question can be asked on Valley of Flowers National Park, then a similar question can also be asked on One Vihar National Park based on this golden rule. Moving forward, UPSC question is with reference to forced labor, that is Vishti, in India during the Gupta period, which one of the following statements is correct? Now, what is the takeaway here? The takeaway is that terms that define historical social life are important. Now, Vishti was a kind of forced labor which defined social life at that time during ancient period. Now, what possible question can emanate? There can be a possible question on Bali. Now, Bali is something different as we understand it today, but in the context of ancient India, Bali was a sort of voluntary offering given to the ruler. So, if a question can be asked on Vishti, then a similar question can be asked on Bali based on this golden rule. Moving ahead, UPSC question is, in which of the following relief sculpture inscriptions is Ranyo Ashoka, that is King Ashoka, mentioned along with the stone portrait of Ashoka? The takeaway that we are getting here is that unique remnants of art depicting major rulers are important. Now, what possible or similar question can emanate here? Headless statue of Kanishka. I need not even elaborate about the uniqueness of this statue. So I hope you are getting the point here. If a question can be asked about the stone portrait, unique stone portrait of King Ashoka, then a similar question can also be asked on the headless statue of Kanishka based on this golden rule. Moving ahead, the UPSC question is, which one of the following statements is not correct? And the correct answer to this question was hepatitis B, unlike hepatitis C, does not have a vaccine. So the takeaway we are getting here is that UPSC expects you to have a basic idea over Mission Indradhanush or India's vaccination program in general. Because hepatitis B, UPSC had not asked this out of the blue. It was not a random question. India has been actively taking steps to avoid hepatitis B infection. So, if the possible similar question that can emanate in the future, there can be possible question on Japanese encephalitis or rotavirus or any other vaccine preventable disease that is included in the immunization program Indradhanush or India's vaccination program in general. That is the main takeaway we are getting here. Let's move forward. The UPSC question is, why are dewdrops not formed on a cloudy night? Now this one is from geography, and the correct answer to this was clouds reflect back the Earth's radiation. What is the takeaway here? The takeaway is UPSC may further intrigue you with technicalities of dew formation. Now, please let's emphasize the fact that this answer is quite technical in nature. It is very conceptual in nature. If UPSC has asked you a question on a basic concept related to dew formation, it can again ask a similar question, a similar technical question of sorts pertaining to dew formation. So what can be that possible question? A question can be asked on katabatic wind. Now, katabatic wind helps in dew formation in hilly regions. So, as we have seen, if a question can be asked on clouds reflecting back the radiation, then a possible question can also be asked on katabatic wind based on this very golden rule. Moving ahead, the UPSC question is, in the context of polity, which one of the following would you accept as the most appropriate definition of liberty? Now, this again is very, very interesting because UPSC Prelims being an objective paper, UPSC has been asking sort of subjective paper questions in this paper. Just taking example of this question on liberty, or earlier there was a question on rights. So these are sort of subjective questions. But the takeaway that we are getting here is UPSC is testing your basic philosophical understanding of important political concepts, and these concepts are really easy if you have that basic clarity. Then what possible question can emanate? A similar question can emanate on justice, equality, fraternity, and so on. So if we have that basic clarity, and that basic clarity we can get easily through NCERTs, we don't need to go far, right? So that is the takeaway from this question. Moving ahead, the UPSC question is, with reference to IFC masala bonds, sometimes seen in the news, which of the following statements given below is or are correct? The takeaway here is that innovative financial instruments are important. UPSC has been asking questions on financial instruments, innovative financial instruments. So a possible similar question that can emanate in future can be on catastrophe bonds, it can be on elephant bonds, green bonds, etc. etc. So if a question can be asked on IFC Masala bond, then similar questions can be asked on catastrophe bonds or elephant bonds based on this golden rule. Moving forward, now let's take our preparation to a next level altogether. I'm talking about being part of a vibrant community. All that I have talked about and all that I am talking about can be done in a better way by being part of a larger, vibrant community. We, as civil services aspirants, have had the habit of studying in silos or studying in small groups. But our experience of running a vibrant community shows that aspirants are getting hugely benefited through the interactions going on in the community, through the help they are getting through the mentors. Here I'm speaking about the specific program of Nikalo Prelims, and the beauty of this program is that it is completely free and anybody can join it just by clicking the link. That link will be provided in the description box or in the comment section below. So the point I'm making is the steps we are taking can be magnified, can be rectified by being part of a bigger, larger community. Just to give an example, these two screenshots I have taken from the interactions being done in the community itself of Nikalo Prelims. The first one is an example of how past year UPSC question is being discussed in the community and how the mentor is moderating the discussion. And second one is an example of an elaborate question asked by a student. Now, presently, the community has more than 2,600 people and it is increasing rapidly. So there is no harm in giving it a try, given the fact that it is completely free. Moving ahead, now let's take our static preparation to yet another level ahead. Static study through the lens of theorems. Now, by theorems, I don't mean I'll be talking here about logical solving techniques, but I will be talking about how we can preempt questions and how we can avoid traps through using the same methods of theorems. And those who haven't heard the concept of theorem, they can see my earlier lectures. Basically, theorem is nothing but logical solving technique which we use to solve questions about which we have little idea or no idea at all. So under this heading, coming to the first UPSC question, consider the following statements. And the two statements that were given were: the chief secretary in a state is appointed by the governor of that state. Second statement: the chief secretary in a state has a fixed tenure. And the theorem that we applied here was extrapolation. What we did there was we correlated the position of chief secretary with the position of the cabinet secretary and we derived the correct answer. So what possible question can emanate and how we can use theorem in that question? A possible question can emanate on advocate general of state, and we can extrapolate, we can relate it with a similar position at the center, that is attorney general. I have taken an example of advocate general. Multiple such bodies can be asked by UPSC on which extrapolation technique can be applied. And while studying that particular thing itself, we must think it in this way that UPSC might ask a twisted question and I might have to use so and so theorem to solve that answer. Moving ahead, another UPSC question: which of the following statements is or are correct? And the statement was: a bill pending in the Lok Sabha lapses on its prorogation. Now, the theorem being used here is wordplay. Now, what we did by using wordplay, UPSC had placed a trap by using the term prorogation. Basically, a bill lapses on dissolution of Lok Sabha, not on prorogation. And that is how UPSC tricked the aspirants. And how we solved this question was by using the theorem of wordplay. So what possible question can emanate on similar lines in the future? I've just taken this example. The chief minister is the head of the state, which is wrong. Basically, he is the head of the government, not the state. Governor is head of the state. So basically, we are also applying the theorem of wordplay here. And while reading about chief minister, while reading of about governor, we must have that thing in the mind that UPSC can flip these terms and try to fool us in the exam. That is how we apply the theorem while preparing the static section. Thirdly, UPSC question is, in the cities of a country, who among the following atmospheric gases are normally considered in calculating the value of air quality index? And the options were carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, methane. So basically the theorem that we applied here was odd one out. And this is a real UPSC question. We just removed carbon dioxide and we were left only with the correct answer. So what possible or similar question can we expect on these lines in the future? There can be question on many things. I have taken an example of books written by Kalidasa. There can be a list of books by Kalidasa, and UPSC may place a book written by some another author, say for example Mritshkatika written by Shudraka. So we can remove that and find the answer. So while reading about books of Kalidasa, while reading about Shudraka, we must have that thing running behind our mind that UPSC may ask a trick question. We must be ready for such scenarios. That is how we use theorems while not only while solving the questions, but also while preparing for the static section and current affairs section as well. So this was today's short discussion, short video, my dear friends. I hope and I am quite confident that many among you must be feeling quite enlightened, and this video must have helped you in more than one ways. Do let us know about your take in the comment section. Till then, as I always say, don't just work hard, but work smart. Please be indoors and do take good care of yourselves. Jai Hind.